So level 2 Pilates. No, I don't know what happened to my voice there. Basics to go through. Remember that, excuse me. So remember that if you are injured, then you really shouldn't be doing this session, okay? If anything feels uncomfortable at any point, then please just stop. Listen closely for alternatives all the way through, because I will be offering them. But like I say, remember, we're looking for muscle fatigue. So if there's any uncomfortableness in a muscle, in a joint, or the muscle, the ligaments, the tendons, what we want is we want to feel muscle fatigue. We don't want to feel pain. So if you feel pain, then you must stop immediately. But muscle fatigue is what we're looking for. So today is going to be a floor-based session. So hopefully it'll be hard. But I thought I'd do a floor-based just to break it up a little bit. So remember, I'm always happy for constructive feedback on the sessions as well. So meanness, no. Constructiveness, yes. Okay, so nice and steady. All we're going to do to begin with is I want you to sit in easy pose. So if you're not comfortable with your legs crossed, you can just do this with the knees bent or the legs extended. We're going to rock our pelvis a little bit, and you can certainly do that in this position. So, but if you can sit cross-legged, great. So, sitting nice and tall. All we're going to do is rock the pelvis. So we're curling the body in and then lifting the body tall. So curling in and lifting tall. Curling in, lifting tall. So breathing in, exhaling. Now I'm just going to turn to the side so you can see what I'm doing. So just as we would be rocking that pelvis standing up, we're doing it sat down, and we're creating a C shape with the body, nice and steady. So keep going, just changing my direction back. So remember, when we're doing this, we are bringing movement into the lumbar spine. Okay, so that's the lower part of the back. We're getting that synovial fluid pumping, which is the fluid that goes around our joints, lubricates the joints. So nice and steady. But what we want to do as we're doing this curl, as we come towards the end of it, we're going to keep a little bit of a tuck under with the tailbone. So nice and steady. Sorry, I'm filming this and it's early morning. I'm not sure I've quite woken up yet. So nice and steady, sit tall. Tailbone slightly tucked under so you can feel that difference. Take your hands to your rib cage. Let's focus on our lateral breath. So we're breathing in through the nose, out through the nose, in through the nose, out through the nose, in through the nose, out through the nose. Excuse me, scratching my nose, and out through the mouth. So keep going with that. What you want to be feeling is that the rib cage is like the gills of a fish, and they're coming in and out. It's not a huge movement, there's just a little bit of contraction and retraction. 2, 3. 2, 3. Excuse me, sorry. So nice and steady, breathing in through the nose and then out through the mouth. Very gently, your hands come back down. We need to be maintaining that lateral breathing all the way through the session. Sorry, I seem to be having a season fit. So now we've got that tuck, we've got used to our lateral breath. We need to activate our pelvic floor. So I'm contracting from the back of the bottom. I want you to think of it as an elevator this week. So when we contract at the very back, that's lifting up to our first floor. We come to the second floor in the middle, and we're lifting to the third floor. We've got that full lift up at the front, and we're staying on that third floor. So we've got that first, that second, and third. So just hold it in place, and then what I want you to do is relax the third, relax the second, relax the first, and then concentrate on just pulling each individual muscle part of the pelvic floor. So it's like a U-shaped belt that's coming underneath, pulling each part up. Now I know sometimes people in the studio said, but Gemma, I can't, when I activate one, I activate all of them. This is why it's good to practice this, because it becomes more, you become more conscious of the different parts that you're contracting. And there's a lot the pelvic floor can tell us, depending on like when you're doing that contraction. So it can tell us where maybe the pelvic floor is weak, where it's strongest, just by which part is activating first, or we're struggling to activate. So now let's activate all three. So you're coming back up to that third floor, we're lifting up and we're holding. We're now taking that belly button in towards the spine, so we've got tension, but we can still breathe. Hands just resting on the thighs. So we want to have that 25-30% contraction going on the core. We've got stability, we've got strength, but we can move freely, breathe freely. So sitting nice and tall, tuck pelvic floor, abdominal belt, all in place. I'm breathing laterally. So now all I want you to do is squeeze in your chin towards your chest. Give yourself a beautiful double chin and then release. So squeeze in and release. Squeeze in and release. Squeeze in and release. So just two more. And last one for me. And let it release. Roll your shoulders to your ears and then take them back and down. So we inhale up, exhale down. Inhale up, exhale down. Inhale up, exhale down. So nice and steady. Letting go of any tension in the shoulders and neck. That double chin is really good for releasing tension in the back of the neck and the top of the shoulders. And then doing this afterwards is another good one. So let's change that direction now. So we're coming from the back. So we come, bring the shoulder blades together, up and down. Nice and steady. Two more. Just releasing really into the shoulders and neck, and then relax. Sitting tall, everything activated. Cervical rotation. So we're just taking it to the left, back to the center, and over to the right. And all the time we're doing this, we're pelvically and abdominally connected, activated. So nice and steady, just rotating, bringing that movement into the neck. And remember, we're never twisting, we're just taking it as far as feels comfortable and right, no more. Excuse me this morning. I think it's because I've got the blinds shut in the loft and I've got the lights on. So I don't know whether the lights are making me feel sleepy as opposed to the natural light from outside coming in. So one more time to the right, and I'm waffling, so I apologise. And one more time to the left. And then let it relax. Take your hands by your side, and lateral flexion. Remember, if we've got osteoporosis, we're going to keep this range small. So just reaching over to the side, bringing it back. Over to the side, bringing it back. And of course, if we wanted to go further, we slide the hand further away. And you're going to feel that lengthening along. And nice and steady. Breathing in. Breathing out. Sorry, I know I'm a noisy breather when I do this. I do it to kind of emphasize that breathing out through the mouth. So one more time over this side, one more time the other. Ooh, I'm feeling tight on the right, and then let it relax. Bring your hands to your thighs and then just bring them across your chest. Sitting nice and tall, activated. Let's have that nice rotation. Again, remembering if we have got osteoporosis, we're going to be keeping that range really small. So just nice and steady. Now, if you wanted to make the range a little bit bigger or a little bit more challenging, you could take your hands down, place one hand behind, and just rotate like so. Otherwise, we can keep the hands on the chest. We don't do generally much rotation in life. So it's good we're activating and making the thoracic part of the spine, that mid-spine, sort of like come awake, but we also don't want to overdo it. So last time to the left. And then relax. Hands on the knees, just sit the soles of the feet together. And all I want you to do is, keeping that pelvic floor and abdominal belt activated, let's lift up the knees and take them down. So just a little bit of activation on the inside of the thighs going on. So we're inhaling, we're exhaling, we're inhaling, we're exhaling, inhaling and exhaling, inhaling and exhaling. Two more. Last one. and relax. Okay, we're going to come over onto the floor. Remembering if you've got back issues that you're just going to roll and then come down, and we want our knees bent. If we've got no back issues, we can have our knees bent, feet hip distance apart, and we can very gently just begin to roll, tucking the chin into the chest. And then we'll walk your feet in and we're down on the floor. Ooh. So, you can have a cushion under your head if you want to at this point, hands by the side of the thighs. All we're going to do, so feet to hip distance apart. If you're not sure what hip distance is when you're on the floor, bring your feet together and then turn them out like Mary Poppins and then heels out. If you're not sure who Mary Poppins is, just turn them out like penguin feet and then turn your heels out. So just bring your hands to your hips. So index fingers and fingers are on the hip bones, thumbs on the ribs. Let's lift the right heel up and then the left heel up. So we're doing that easy peel, but we're doing it on the floor. So nice and steady, just lift it up. Nice and controlled. Everything's engaged. I'm lifting and pulling up in that pelvic floor all the time. And remember, it doesn't matter if that relaxes, if that eases out, because that is going to happen. Okay? Keeping it contracted 100% of the time is, you know, very, very challenging. So don't worry if it relaxes. We're here to remind you. I forget. I'm not perfect. So nice and steady, by no means. So nice and steady. And then bring both heels down. Just lift one leg up and rotate your ankle in one direction and then rotate in the other direction. And then bring it down. Let us do the same with the opposite leg. So we lift up, rotate the ankle in one direction and then rotate in the other direction. That feels really nice. And then bring it down. Bringing your right leg back up to 90 degrees. Just 90 degrees. If we've got no sciatic issues, we can flex that foot. If we've got sciatic issues, just let the foot be relaxed. It's absolutely fine. And we're just going to take it out and then draw it back to that 90 degrees. Now, as we take it out, you might be taking it out towards the ceiling. You might be taking it slightly out in front. Or you might want to take it down towards the floor. We're not touching the floor. We're just bringing some energy and movement into the leg here, okay? So yes, we've got that pelvic floor activated, the abdominal belt, and we know this exercise is working into those areas, but it's more about, at this point, just bringing some energy, some warmth into the leg. So out and in. Breathing in, breathing out. So 4 more. Last one. And bring it down. I think my counting's got even worse since I'm not in the studio, to be honest. So remember, foot flexed or relaxed if we've got sciatica issues. So again, we could be taking it up, just slightly out, or taking it down towards the floor, but it's not for touching the floor. And it's always coming back to that 90-degree angle. So hip, knee over the hip. Breathing in, breathing out. Waking it all up. So 4 more. Last 3. And bring it down. Okay, walk your feet together, knees together, and gently sway side to side. Just take it into a 5 past 2 and a 5 to 2. Now we're going to stay on the floor, and I've just remembered I needed my tin of beans. I grabbed them and then for some reason didn't put them next to me. So nice and steady, just rocking side to side. So we're going to start with imprints first, and then we're going to be using our tins of beans. But remember, if you don't have dumbbells, or you don't want to use dumbbells, or you don't want to use cans, or you can use water bottles, just making sure everything's always equal weight on both sides, then just do it without. That's absolutely fine. So relaxing your feet, again, bring them back to hip distance, turn the feet out to the sides like a penguin or Mary Poppins, heels out, we've got our hip distance apart. Let your hands just rest on your hip bones. Take a moment to be conscious of your eyes looking up towards the ceiling, because we want to be looking straight up. So if they're looking behind, we may have an overextension in the neck, so we need to nod the chin. If they're looking in front, again, overextension in the opposite direction, we need to lift the chin. Remember, you may already know this, so you may be aware. If you do it and you realise that you've got a slight thing, you can always take like a small flannel or a small towel, place that under your head rather than a cushion. because cushions sometimes, depending on the type of cushion, you may just want a little lift, okay? So nothing big, unless it's quite, excuse me, unless you know in the studio you've needed a block, you've needed a cushion, then obviously then put that in place. So nice and steady imprints, we're just going to lift our tailbone up towards the ceiling, imprint the lower back, and then rock it forward. So very gently rocking back and forth. So we're lifting the tailbone up, we're imprinting the lower back, the mid back, the upper back, and then releasing the upper, the mid, the lower. So starting off with just a couple of rocks of the pelvis, getting ourselves ready for the imprint, and then going into that imprint where we're tucking the tailbone up to the ceiling, imprinting the lower back, mid back, upper back, and releasing, releasing, releasing. So nice and steady. You have to excuse me rubbing my eyes this morning. So just enjoying that imprint. I love imprints. I could just lay and do imprints all day. So they're so great. And of course we've got our pelvic floor and abdominal belt contracted. So now let's bring it back to that neutral spine position. And this is where we're going to need our dumbbells or our tin of beans or our water bottles, or you might not want to use anything at all. So I'm just going to roll onto my side, push myself up and just grab my beans. I feel like I use beans a lot, and it seems like we have a lot of beans in our house, but really I just bought at the very beginning of this lockdown, I just bought, because my husband likes beans, I just bought like a 12-pack of beans, hence why I'm always using beans. I personally, I can only manage like a couple of teaspoons and it doesn't do it for me. So I'm taking my dumbbells, my beans, and I'm taking them up, and they are, I want to turn my palms so they're facing forward. And again, remember, I'm just taking them down for a second. You don't have to be using anything. You can do this exercise without. So being conscious that the wrists and forearms are in alignment. I've rotated the hands out. My arms are over my chest. I'm going to bring them down 90 degrees. They're not going to hit the floor, okay? So I don't want my elbows coming below my shoulders. They're just above the floor. And then I push up above my chest. So I inhale as I bring them down, and I exhale as I bring them up. And I've got that pelvic and abdominal connection. And of course, to be fair, you could also be doing this with a band. So you could lay a band underneath your back and be gripping hold of the band and extending the band up, straightening it up and bringing it down. So what I want you to be really conscious of as you're going through these exercises is that we're not getting floppy wrists, so the wrist's not dropping, and it's not getting cocky, it's not flopping the other way. So nice and steady. So inhaling and exhaling. I'm abdominally and pelvically connected. I'm using that lateral breath. I'm controlling it. So I'm going to do 2 more of these just fluid downs and ups. And I'm going to hold it at the top. This time I'm going to do the same exercise, but I'm going to go down for 4 and up to 4. And it's a fluid movement. We're not stopping. So it's a 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you'd be breathing in, breathing out. So 3 more of these. Sorry for the really irritating voice. Doing it in the count. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Last one. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keeping them where they are. We go backstroke. So have them, they want to be shoulder width apart as we do this. We're taking one arm back as one goes forward. And again, remember, if the rib cage starts to split, starts to lift up, if the lower back, mid back starts to lift, I'll just move that cushion, then that is too far, okay? I'll just move what I've got behind me. So I can feel that as I've gone here, I'm lifting into the middle of my back, so I'm losing my form. That's no good. I want to be about here. So for me, it's not a huge movement. So you've got to be really conscious of making sure you can keep the form. Let them come back to the middle. Sort of say hi to one another and then bring it back. So they're just having a little greeting in the middle and then going back. So all the time, pelvically, abdominally connected. Breathing in, breathing out. Making sure, be conscious that that rib cage isn't lifting up. So nice and steady. Controlled. I'm really conscious. I'm going to just put mine down and just talk for a moment as you're going through this exercise. What I want you to be really conscious, it's quite easy for your mid-back to start lifting in this. So that's when you know that range is going too far because you're getting that lift in the middle. So really be conscious of that, because I think it's quite easy to kind of get into the habit of swinging them. And again, we don't want momentum taking them through that movement. We want the control in the joint, control in the muscles, the ligaments, the tendons as they go through the movement, because they're all working together. So let's have one more, and then bring them back, and then very gently bring them down and just pop them to the side. So nice and steady, hands by the side. We come back to those imprints again. So tuck the tailbone into up towards the ceiling, imprint the lower back, the mid back, the upper back. Then let it very gently release the upper, mid, lower. So we are preparing ourselves because we're going to do our bridge next. But before we do our bridge, we will stretch out our hamstrings. And remember, being conscious that if we've got sciatica, active sciatica going on, we don't really want to be stretching the hamstrings. So I'll give you that glute stretch alternative. So nice and steady. So just imprinting. As I said, I could just do this all day. So let's have one more of those imprints. And then release. So you want your strap, if you're using a strap for your stretch, to hand. Don't worry if you don't have one, it really doesn't matter. A pair of tights will do. They've got the elasticity in, or a dressing gown belt. Take it round the middle of the foot and take that foot up into the air. If we've got that sciatica, I want you to just be hugging that knee into the chest. Now this supporting leg can either be bent or straight. That was a good crack, wasn't it? So I'm going to keep mine bent because I feel it takes the pressure out of my lower back for me, but that doesn't mean you have to. So holding my strap, or you may be holding your leggings or holding the back of the thigh. We want to try and straighten this leg out as much as we can. So that might mean it needs to be further away from the body, and that's absolutely fine. We want to be feeling this stretch into the back of the thigh, the hamstrings. This is a developmental stretch, remember? So we're going to hold it for around 30 seconds. So we take a deep breath. As we exhale, we draw it a little bit closer and we hold. And again. Sometimes we can rub the hamstrings as well. Bringing warmth into the muscle. That's going to help aid it. Take a deep breath. Draw it a little bit closer again and hold. And then gently pull that knee into the chest. Bring it down. Let's take the other leg up towards the ceiling. And again, remembering if we've got that active sciatica, knee into the chest. Glute stretch rather than the hamstrings. So straightening it out, holding it there. And even though I'm stretching, I've still got my pelvic floor activated. I'm still breathing with my lateral breath. Still got my abdominals connected. And I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to draw a little bit closer and I'm going to hold. And again, I'm going to take another deep breath, draw it closer and hold. and again. And it might only be small movements, that's okay. You know, we want to be getting that stretch into the back of the hamstring, but remember, we want the muscles fatiguing, not pain, not in pain. It can be like an unpleasant, satisfactory feeling, but shouldn't be pain. So taking a deep breath, as you exhale, gently bend that knee into the chest and gently let the strap come away. Pop it down behind you or in easy reach, and hands come by the side. We're going to do pelvic bridge. We're going to be coming up and down in our pelvic bridge. So feet are hip distance apart. Remember, at any point, if you start to get cramp in the hamstring, walk the feet further away from the bottom. We want the knees above the ankles, hands resting by the side of the bum. We should have neutral spine going on, so there should be a little bit of hollowing in the back, unless you've got a flat back and you know that your back is going to be completely into the mat. Pelvic floor's engaged, abdominal belt's engaged. Nice and steady, eyes up to the ceiling, making sure you haven't got a cushion underneath your head for this, unless you know you've got that overextension, but we shouldn't generally have a cushion under the head for pelvic bridge. So nice and steady. When you're ready, begin to imprint the lower back, tucking the tailbone up towards the ceiling, and then begin to lift. Slowly lifting up, and then slowly bringing it down. So we lift up, and we bring it down. Inhaling, exhaling. So keep going with that. I just want to be talking you through it as you go. So making sure that as you're going through that movement, it's a sequential flow. It's nice and fluid as you come up. When you come to the top of the bridge, I want you to hold it there for a moment. Take your hands, place them on the rib cage. Make sure the ribs are not splaying up towards the ceiling. That means you're coming up too high. Make that range smaller. And nice and steady. Keep going for me. So stay where you are. As I'm filming, sometimes I can't see how far along it is into the film. So I'm like, should be wearing my glasses really. So nice and steady. Let's have 2 more of those. And then last one. And then very gently, excuse me, bring it down. Okay, roll onto your side. We're going to do side open gate. So at this point, you're going to want your block and cushion, okay? So I'm taking my block and my cushion. I'm going to come a little bit closer so I've got more range, and I'm going to use my tin of beans as well. So, doesn't mean you have to. So remember, we're coming onto our side. We want our spine to be in neutral. I want you to have your knees bent as if you're sitting on a chair. Arms extended out in front. It's like we want the shoulders to be on top of one another, so we don't want to be hunching forward, and we don't want to be too far back and have that overextension in the spine as well, like we're twisting there. So hips are stacked, knees are stacked, ankles are stacked. So I'm going to use my my beans, but you don't have to. Again, you could have a band and you could be using your band. So it's just going to make it a little bit more challenging if we want that challenge. So all we're going to do is lift up. Now the head, the eyes can be following the thumb. Now once we can no longer see the thumb, then the head stays where it is. And then we bring it back. So we're bringing some movement, some rotation into the thoracic here. As I said, when you're having that setup, you don't want to have that twist before you get going. You want to make sure everything's nice and stacked. So of course, as we're doing this, we're breathing in. So we're inhaling as we go back. And we're exhaling as we come forward. I want you to be really conscious that you're not twisting the neck. So the head's rotating and it's looking. If we start to twist, you're going to be twisting on both sides. You're going to feel that. It's not going to be pleasant. It's not great for the cervical part of the spine either. So nice and steady. So 4 more. If my stomach starts making loud rumbling noises, I apologise. I haven't had my breakfast yet. Suddenly I can just feel my stomach sort of going, So last 2. And last one. And then bring it back. So now we're here. It's a bow and arrow. So again, you can use your dumbbell or your band if you wish to, or your tin, or your water bottle, or nothing at all. We're just going to draw it back, sliding it along the body, and then letting it come forward. And this is more about the scapula, the shoulder blade. So before we was bringing that movement into the thoracic with that little bit of rotation going on, but here it's more just about the scapula. So nice and steady, eyes are looking forward. Nice and controlled. So nice and steady, controlled. I'll tell you one thing, my arms are getting tired just with my tin of beans. It just demonstrates how weak I am these days. So last two for me. Last one, breathing in of course as you're pulling back, breathing out as you draw it forward. And then let it relax down. Okay, we're rolling back onto our back again. So you're going to want your dumbbells to hands if you're using them. And we're going to need to take the cushion out because we're going back to our bridge again. So pop them to the side. This time when we do our bridge, we're going to take it up and we're holding it in place. So we're just going up, we're holding it there for 30 seconds. Now if that feels too much, I want you to just stick with the imprints. That's absolutely fine. So ankles beneath the knees, hands by the side of the bottom. Eyes looking up to the ceiling. Remember, if that head's looking back, nod the chin. If it's looking forward, lift the chin. So core is engaged, pelvic floor is engaged. Very gently, I'm tucking my tailbone up towards the ceiling, imprinting my lower back, and then I begin to lift and I'm coming up into that pelvic bridge. I can use my hands on my rib cage to make sure I'm not splaying the ribs up and I'm coming up too high, and I'm just holding that position. I'm just holding that position. So holding it there, nice and steady. Let's take a deep breath. As you exhale, bring the upper back down, mid back down, lower back. Walk your feet together and gently rock the knees side to side. So just take it to a 5 past 2 and a 5 to 2. And obviously if you've got no back issues and you want to go further or you feel you're comfortable going further, you can do. That's absolutely fine. So now what I want you to do is settling back in the centre, taking your feet hip distance apart. Take a hold of your beans again for me. Oh, where's my other bean tin gone? Stay there for me. What did I do with it? Oh, it's right next to me. Oh gosh. So nice and steady, apologies there. So taking them up, this time you're going to have them facing one another. We want them to be over the chest. All we're going to do is bend the elbows down towards our foreheads. We've done this last week, I can't remember. So nice and steady, and then draw it up. So we're gently coming down. And again, we don't have to use dumbbells. You could be using the band, again, having the band underneath your body, underneath your back, and taking a hold, and then just having that tension. So nice and steady. Controlled. So we're breathing in, breathing out. So let's just have 2 more of these, nice and steady, controlled. And the last one. And then bring it back, gently bring them down, pop them to the side. We're rolling over onto our side again, same side leg series. So we can take our block and cushion. If we've got shoulder issues, we can rest like so. We may not have shoulder issues, we may prefer to have our arm long and resting the head here, using a cushion if so. I have a personal preference for like so, but it's each to their own. So, whatever position you're in, shoulders stacked, I want you to bring your knees in front. So again, you're sitting on that chair, feet are together. We've got 90 degrees. So the hips, knees, ankles, knees. One hand in front and one resting on the floor. So remember, we can have this here. We can take it here, here, or we could have it here. So we're going for cobbler, feet are on the floor. We're going to open up and then draw it down. And we're inhaling and we're exhaling. So we're inhaling and we're exhaling. So nice and steady, controlled. Taking your time, inhaling up, feeling it in the glutes. Good old glutes. Nice and steady. Let's have 4 more of these. So last 4. I've obviously been working in the past few days because actually my muscles are all really aching as I'm doing this. So nice and steady, last 2. And then the last 1. And hold it there. I say working, or actually maybe the fact that I've not been doing enough, that's why they're fatiguing so quickly. I can feel it. So holding it there, nice and steady, just for 4, 3, 2, 1, and bring it down. Give it a rub, give it a pat. So, hand in front, on the side, long or up. This time we're straightening our legs out. So I want you to straighten your legs out. As you do so, make sure that your hips are on top of one another, your shoulders are on top of one another. Can you see I want to just rock my pelvis forward, and then I'm going to be tilting forward. So it's really important that you're conscious of that, conscious of what the body's doing. Knees stacked, ankle stacked. This top leg wants to be as if you're pulling it away. So as if someone is grabbing it and just pulling it away. So it's becoming longer than that bottom leg. That gives us our hollowing underneath. So being really conscious of where your hips are is really important. So like for me, on this one, I quite like to have my hand on my hip because it allows me to feel if I'm starting to rock forward or rock back. It just makes me a little bit more aware. So I'm lifting both legs up and I'm slicing them through the air. Now remember, if that feels too much, keep one leg down and just slice one leg through the air. Because when we do the opposite side, you'll change over. So nice and steady. So breathing in, breathing out, hips is level, nice and steady. Again, if you wanted to make it more challenging, we can do. And we want it there. So just for 4, 3, 2, 1, bring it back, relax, bring it down, rolling onto your back again, taking the cushion and the block away, but you can have the cushion if you wish, okay? So I'm going to stick with my cushion. Just come across a bit so I'm back on my mat. My feet are hip distance apart. I've got my hands on my hips. All I'm going to do is lift one leg up to 90 degrees, just like we did in the warm-up. If I've got no sciatica issues going on, I'm going to flex my foot. Now, we can be pushing that leg up towards the ceiling. We could be just pushing it out on the diagonal, or maybe we're taking it down towards the floor, but it doesn't touch the floor. So those are your 3 options. We drop back in. So we breathe out, we breathe in, breathe out. Just doing the one leg. So it's either up, either on the diagonal, either low. And if we wanted to make it more challenging, we could, instead of having the leg bent, start with a full straight leg, but that's certainly going to be more challenging because it's basically creating a bigger lever for your body. But if you've got back issues going on, you might immediately find that that's just too much. So stick with what feels right. So breathing in, breathing out. Core engaged, pelvic floor engaged all the time. So the last two. Last one. Bring it back, bring it down. Feet together, knees together. Give a little sway, side to side. 5 past 2, 5 to 2. Very gently, taking them hip distance apart. Remember, you can just do your Mary Poppins with the heels together, turn the feet out, turn the toes out, and then turn the heels out. So this time, opposite leg comes up 90 degrees. Keep it relaxed. If we've got sciatica going on, can be slightly flexed if we haven't. So we can be pushing up, pushing on the diagonal, or pushing down as if you're dipping the heel of the foot in a pool of water. So nice and steady, controlled. Breathing out, breathing in. Just nice and steady. Controlled. So last two. And last one. And bring it back. Bring it down, knees together, gently sway side to side. Take your feet hip distance apart. Let's just have a few imprints. Cushion can stay behind the head. Just tuck the tailbone up to the ceiling, imprint the lower back, the mid, the upper, release upper, mid, lower. So just 4 of these imprints, nice and steady. And one more time. And then very gently relax. We're going to roll over all the way onto our front. So rolling onto your side, coming over onto your front. Excuse me. So I'm just going to put my cushion to the side. And I'm just coming down. I want my hands either side of my shoulders. So what we're going to do, shoelaces to the floor, is you're going to very gently slide the elbows by the side of the chest, okay? We want that juicy peach under our chin. So if we look too far forward, we're going to let it roll away. So just a little nod of the chin to the chest. All we're going to do is slide the hands out in front, lifting a little bit. If that feels too much, keep the arms down, that's fine. So we inhale, lift. Exhale, down. 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 Last time, inhale, lift. Exhale, down. Very gently take the hands, one on top of the other, let the forehead come down. Relax there for a moment. Just taking a moment. Feet to hip distance apart, shoulders are relaxed. And all we're going to do, excuse me, all we're going to do very gently is just lift the head, lift the chest and come down. Now you may want to keep your hands there, you may want to take your hands away and just have the hands by the side as you lift, or you may want to take your hands and just let them float up as you come down. So we're just coming straight up and down. So sometimes I know we do a little We draw the shoulder blades together, but we're just bringing the head, a little bit of the chest, and the arms, if you wish, up. Feet are staying on the floor. So keep going with that for me. So nice and steady. It's just a small movement. It's not particularly big. You're just coming up a fraction of the way. Eyes should be looking down all the time, and the bum should be switched off. Okay, so the bum should feel like jelly. So one thing you can do whilst you're doing this maybe is, if you want to, you can take your hands and place them on your bum and just see if they're activated or not. So nice and steady, keep going. Just give me 2 more. Ooh. And then last one. And then let it relax. Bring your hands in front, let your head just turn in one direction. Let's hold it there for a moment. Let's just hold it there for a moment. And then you're very gently going to take the head in the opposite direction. Just hold it there for a moment. And then come back to the center, head down. You're going to extend your arms long in front, eyes looking down, and we're just going to lift one arm and the head and bring it down. So one arm and the head and down. Keeping both the ankles, the feet in place. And again, we want jelly bum. So bum cheeks are switched off as we go through this. So inhaling as you're lifting, exhaling as you're bringing it down. Let's have one more either side. Last one. And relax. Bringing your hands back. Before we transition, and we're doing blah blah blah, we're going to do the side series again for upper body, then roll on the back and then lower body. I want you to just bring one foot towards your bum, and we can either grab a hold of maybe the leggings or the socks, or if you can grab a hold of your foot, or you may need to grab the strap. Just gently stretch into the front of the thigh, so the quadriceps, that big muscle running along the front of the thigh. And we want our hips pressing into the mat. We want to be equal in that distribution. Chest facing down into the mat. Just holding it there for a few moments. Just getting that stretch. Holding it. Breathing nice and deep. And take a deep breath. And as you exhale, let's just change over. And let's just do the other leg. So the other leg's coming up again. Grab the sock, the leggings, use a strap, or if you've got a circle to hand, you may want to use that. Hips both pressing into the mat. Ooh. I'm finding, because my toes kind of pretty much there now. I started walking a bit more, but I've noticed that I'm rotating when I'm walking, because I've been overcompensating on the left, and the whole of my right side of my body is so tight, it's terrible. I need to do some work on getting myself back in alignment. So nice and steady. Take a deep breath, release. Hands by the side. We're going to roll onto our side. We're doing the upper body. So I'm going to change directions on my mat. So just roll onto the side and gently press yourself up if you need to roll to the other side. So we're doing that side open gate and then the bow and arrow. So again, if you want to use a band or your beans, well, not necessarily, for your canned item, canned produce, you can do. We're laying on our side. we're sat on a chair, so the hips are over the top of one another, the knees are over the top of one another. Good to take a look at your knees, check one's not leaning over the top, because again, you know then that your hips are swaying forward. Shoulders want to be directly above one another. If you're wanting to use your weights, you can rest that in your hand. Nice and steady. All we're going to do, ankles below the knee, pelvic floor, abdominal belly gauge, is lift up. And remember, the head can rotate, can follow the form, or it can follow the armpit, but once it can't see it, once you're able to twist the head, then that's too far for the neck to go, so you don't go any further. So breathing in as we go through this movement. Bring that movement into the thoracic spine. So for me, I know as I'm getting up to the point, so I'm letting my head rotate, but once I get to the central, sort of like I'm looking straight up, then that's as far as I want my head to go, as far as I want my cervical plane to go. So I follow my thumb with my eyes, and once I can't see the thumb, then that's, I know that that is the range that I want to be going. Because if you can't see the thumb or your armpit, you can use both as a gauge, then it's going too far. And of course, we're breathing in as we lift up, and we're breathing out as we take it back. Nice and steady. Last two. Last one. Bring it back. Bow and arrow, let's just draw it along. Check you've still got that alignment, hips, shoulders, sliding it along the body. Nice and steady. Breathing in, of course. Breathing out. Controlled. Nice and steady. Last two. And last one. And then very gently bring it down. So pop that down. Nice and steady. We'll roll it back onto our backs. Cushion block wants to be out of the way. So we're coming over, feet to hip distance apart. Nice and steady, and all we're going to do is we're going to just pull that belly button down towards the spine. So remember, we've got that 25-30% contraction going on. What we're looking for here is we're like trying to pull it even further down. So if you're trying to bring it to like a 90-100% contraction, when you release it back to 30-25%. So it's not a full release of like, the tummy just relaxes and the pelvic floor relaxes. We're bringing it back to that 25-30%. So nice and steady. Check your eye alignment. Make sure you're looking up. If you're looking behind, nod. If you're looking in front, lift the chin. So we're just going to begin to draw that belly button down towards the spine. Down, down, down. As if I'm taking an ice cream scoop and I'm hollowing out the tummy. And then I'm allowing it to come back to that 25-30%. So again, hollowing. You want to feel the tummy pulling down. And then bringing it back. And again. And down. Last one for me, taking it down, hollowing out, holding it. Let's hold it for a bit longer this time. You should feel that working all around the pelvic floor, all along the abdominals, that transverse abdominis. Just for 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Roll back onto your side leg series. So again, remember, we can have the cushion and the block, or we may have our arm long, like so, and head resting on the arm or on a cushion. So cobbler, knees on top of one another, hip stacked, shoulders stacked, hand on the hip, resting on the floor, resting on the bum, or resting up in the air if we want to challenge ourselves a little bit more. So feet, just draw them slightly fractionally underneath the knees for me. Feet are together. All we're going to do is lift the knee up and down. So inhaling and exhaling. Nice and steady. Controlled. So just taking your time, keep going with that. So being really conscious that you're keeping that movement, that the knees, when they're coming down together in exactly the same plane. They're not going any further. I really should have put my glasses on today. I really can't see. So making sure they're going no further, nice and steady. So making sure the knee's not going over, because if the knee starts to go over as you're coming down, that means your hips are slightly forward, okay? So one more of these for me. And then relax. I want you to straighten out your legs. Ooh. Straighten out the legs on top of one another. And again, this is a time where you might find your hip rocking forward. So you may want to put your hand on your hip. You may want it on the floor. You may want it on your side, up above. It's really up to you. So this time, imagine someone is pulling this top leg and they're pulling it away. They're trying to make you longer. So just as if you're being pulled, and then hold that position. So as if we can slip a piece of tracing paper, maybe just a really large stamp, be a giant stamp, wouldn't it? So nice and steady. And then all we're going to do is slice. So lift both legs up and then slice them through the air. And remember what I said in that first time, it feels too much having them both up, just slice the one. We're going through the midline. What I want you, did you see what I did there? I rocked forward. This is the good thing with having the camera on you. So when I'm teaching, sometimes I can't see because I can't see myself in the mirror. So you're just nice and steady. You want to be keeping those hips nice and still, hips over the top of one another. So I would say if you've got a big mirror near you while you're doing this, it's great to use. Just so you can see what you're doing. Because sometimes we don't realise what our body's doing. We think we're doing it and we think we're okay. So nice and steady. Just for 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring it back. Bend the knees in. Give them a little rub. They're still awake. One hand down. We're going to push ourselves up onto our side into seated position. So very gently push up. Always good practice to practice just pushing up from your side in case you ever have a fall. I know that sounds really bleak, but just in case you do, always good practice. So we're coming over onto our knees. Can you believe it? We're at the end of the session. Okay, you put up with me waffling for an hour. So nice and steady, come up. Let's just swing, bring our heart rate back up. We've been on the floor for a while. So let's just make sure we've got everything still engaged, the abdominal belt engaged, and let's just take that weaker leg forward. Toes behind, shoelaces floor is going to make it more challenging. Toes tucked under is going to give you an assist as we lift up into the rocket. Now I'm quite aware that as I'm going to go up my head, but my eyeline is going to disappear, so I apologise now. So let's inhale up, exhale down. So nice and steady, feet hip distance apart. Give me a sassy walk, so swing it out. I'll just bend a little bit as I sassy walk so you can still see my head. You might, to be fair, you might be like, oh yeah, get that head out of the way. So nice and steady. Just swing it out and then let it settle. Tailbone under, shoulder blades back and down. Juicy peach under the chin. and we are all done. So well done. I hope you enjoyed that. Remember, I'm always open to constructive feedback. And yeah, see you soon. Take care. Bye.